second.
Welcome to Pull Up and Pour, the podcast where you pull up just as you are, pour whatever's in your glass and heart, and join the conversation. This is your happy hour without the pressure, a space for real stories, real laughs, and real talk. Whether it's wine, water, or a mocktail in your glass, what matters most is that you're willing to share what's on your mind and in your heart. Because here we say it, we sip it, and we share it. In this space, connection flows best when everyone's welcome. So pull up, get comfortable, and let's pour into some conversation.
Hi. Okay, so here we are. So, everybody, this is Eddie Theokis. Many of you have probably seen her actually on the first show that we did, which is Behind the Wall, where we talked about correctional officers and what their experience, is like. And Eddie is Pull Up and Pour's resident clinical therapist who specializes in trauma. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to get into kind of be more a little bit more specialized. She specializes in trauma, but more around motherhood and mothers. Okay. So without further ado, Eddie, I want you to take it away and tell a little bit about you to the audience.
So my full name is Edwige, but everyone calls me Eddie. I am a child of immigrants, immigrated to the United States when I was about 5 years old, and have been in the space of like navigating the world of all things. I'm a lover of all things. I'm just a curious cat, and I am a therapist who specializes in trauma and stress. And as the older that I have gotten and have become a mom, I have made it my mission to want to support moms because, we keep saying that moms are important, but we really do not invest a lot of our energy and our time into mothers. And certainly as a mom, we don't really generate time for ourselves. We sacrifice ourselves. And so I recognize, especially when I became a mom, that we really do have to prioritize our mental health because, again, in my background, to know the impact of mothers on children's well-being, I like scream it from the rooftops. Like self-care is a non-negotiable. Like it is a necessity for your well-being and for society's well-being because you are raising the next generation of human beings. And so this is like my passion is to just work with other moms, and, women of color, women it's just, it doesn't matter. I'm like, if you're a mom, I want to work with you because I want you to be your best self, not only for you, but also for just, what it means to be a mom. So I feel like I'm a unicorn and I call myself a unicorn all the time. I call my clients that I like work with as unicorns because I combine really science and psychology and all of the evidence-based things with a lot of woo-woo. I am into the woo-woo and I bring that woo-woo energy with me and I invite all the other unicorns who believe in the woo-woo. Bring it, let's incorporate it into our, into our functioning, and let's just get you healthy. So that is kind of like my spiel. I am 48 years old. I am a mom I'm an older mom. I'm a mom to a soon to be 7-year-old and a soon to be 3-year-old. So I'm an older mama. And I'm also just learning that I'm going through perimenopause. So I'm a perimenopausal, middle-aged mom of 2 young kids. So, so like I'm getting hit at all angles of life, and I'm like, if I can learn something and share it with people, then I'm an open book. I'm an open book.
Okay. Well, I want to, actually take a moment to say hi to at Remote Lifestyle underscore co. She says, not sure if it's male or female, but because I can't tell by the icon, but welcome. I said
Welcome.
happy to be here. And I thank you for joining us and tuning in. So, I'm going to take you back just for a little bit, Eddie, and I want to find out from you, like what really inspired you to become a therapist. What was there a defining moment in your life, or was this something that you just kind of always knew that you kind of wanted to do?
So I would say it was a slow unfolding. Um, and again, you don't know I guess you don't know your own superpowers. You don't see yourself, until other people see it for you. So I apparently was always a good listener. Like from the time I was and again, I didn't know that I was a good listener, but like apparently from the time I was super young, I was a really good listener. And people would tell me things, and because I'm a curious cat, like people would tell me things and they would walk away and be like, thank you for listening. Like, I feel so much better. Now I'm like 6, 7, 8, right? Like I'd be on the subway with my mom, or like on the train or whatever. And like somebody like, and I joke that I have talk to me invisibly etched into my forehead. I think God like put me on this planet and etched into my forehead. Talk to me. Because because people just talk to me, and I like it because I'm fascinated by humans.
Mm-hmm.
I like really am like caught up in like wanting to listen to people, right? And so I've always been a good listener. I, like a child of immigrants, the expectation was that you either go to law school or med school.
Okay.
So I was in college doing my major was going to be in medicine, and psychology was a minor, and I flunked out of pre-med. I couldn't pass my physics, and I couldn't pass chemistry. So as I'm like talking with my advisor, and I guess she had known me, right? Like, and she's just like, I think you would be a really good psychologist. I think you'd be really good therapist. And I said, I think you're right. Like, so I gave up the pre-med, the dream of being a doctor and making my immigrant parents proud. And my father's a psychiatrist, I will say that. So that was also in the household.
Okay,
right?
So it's still in the wheelhouse.
It's still in the world, right? I'm not a doctor, but I'm still in the world. And again, we had the books all at our house, right? It was all in the house, right? So like, I know I was absorbing it through osmosis, right? But I never thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. Or I just was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
And so when my advisor suggested that I look into psychology, I went all in and I fell in love with it. And that was it ever since. That was it. I was like, I'm going to be a psychologist, or I'm going to be a therapist. Didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that I was going to be helping people
in this space of just, kind of with the mind, and helping them to be able to move past things that, don't, that maybe they have internalized, be it all types of behavior.
Correct.
Many of it, we kind of keep going back to that because of trauma and unhealed wounds. So
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let me ask you, so how did the vision of planting seeds, how did that come into play?
So when I first got out of grad school, one of my first jobs was in an inner city, and it was Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for a child welfare agency, and I was working with women, moms predominantly,
mm-hmm.
where the children were removed by DIFUS. It was DIFUS at the time. It's now DCPNP, but it was Child Protective Services.
Okay.
And in working with these women, what I would find was that, there was a lot of distrust, and we can get into like all of the institutionalizing and all of the distrust and all of that. But I would say these things. And again, I don't know my own superpower. I don't know my own strength, I guess. I don't know my own abilities, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say these things to my clients that they had never heard before, or they had never like saw it framed like that.
Okay.
And they said, you planted a seed in me that like you planted, like it's like you said this thing and I couldn't let it go. and it blossomed something in me that like I just it hit a different way, Eddie. It just like the way you said it, it just hit differently than what I was used to, and I kept hearing that over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
As well as I would say my own framework of looking at the world is
Mm-hmm.
like there's no such thing as a free lunch or like an easy, like you have to put in the time and you have to put in
Okay.
the effort, and so you plant the seed, but it is your job to like foster that seed, to grow it, to nurture it, and like what you will get out of it is just something really beautiful. And so that has kind of always stuck with me. Like in the last, whatever, 20 years of people saying like, you would plant these seeds, you would like give these nuggets, and it would just root, it would take hold.
Mm-hmm.
And it like had the capacity to like blossom into something that was more beautiful. And so when I was going out on my own, I was like, well, like what better name than to call it planting seeds? Because yeah, the therapy is a process. It's
Yeah,
not
it
a
is.
one and done. It's not a like, oh, you're gonna wave your magic wand and cure me. It
Right.
is a constant like planting the seed. And again, if you garden, which I do, you garden, you have to de-weed, you have to constantly be nurturing it, you got to water it, you got to give it the right ingredients, like all of the things that
Yeah.
we think about planting seeds. Like when you
Seed
think about
time and
all the
harvest.
things, you gotta,
Seed
yeah,
time
you gotta
and
put in the
harvest.
time and the
Seed
work.
time and harvest. Yep, absolutely.
Right. And so I live in that space of like always trying to frame for someone. Therapy is not a quick fix. It is a constant, like, it is a constant review, reflection, reframing, growing, evolving. Like, you're just always having to nurture that plant, which is yourself.
Right, right. Okay, okay. So, I know that you specifically, like you work with when it comes to with women, you know, especially mothers. So, what would you say are some of the common struggles that you see?
I think the common struggles, so it's so multi-layered, right? But I think as moms, we like take pride in like this superhero, like I can do everything, you
Mm,
know, like, and some of it has been put on us from the time we were like little, you know, like, oh, you're such a good girl and you're such a mommy's helper. And I think some of
mm-hmm,
it is genetic. I think we do have a nurturing, you know, ness to us. But
mm-hmm,
I think it's like when you become a mom, the expectation, you know, you bring in like religion and Mother Mary and all of that stuff, like
mm-hmm,
the sacrifice. You make the sacrifice, and so like
right.
your needs don't count, your needs don't exist, and so
Mm,
the struggle has been really in our value, our worth. Like our only value is like, you know, being able to take care of other human beings, you know, predominantly our kids, but
mm-hmm,
but then it's that level of, it's a push and pull because you get such huge feedback and you get such positive reinforcement for being the super mom, the superwoman,
yeah.
that it's like you don't want to let that go, but you're burning out. And God forbid you say no, and then now you're no longer the super mom, or like you're like it's this dance and
Mm,
it's this struggle. And God forbid you say no, or that you don't want to, or you can't do it. It's like, oh, are you weak? Are you not the mom that you're like, you know, like it's the dance. And it's
right.
like, how do you get off this hamster wheel? How do you get off I don't want to be on this ride anymore.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
how do I get off this ride? Because I'm drowning. Right.
yeah.
And so I think that there's been, and again, the older that I get, the more that I'm in the space of like, let's just call it what it is. You're struggling, and it's
Mhm.
okay to verbalize that you're struggling,
Yeah.
and that you no longer want to play this game, and that you just, you like, you want to get off the hamster wheel.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's hard. It's hard because, you know, I mean, again, the invisible labor that we carry as moms is just like, you don't know until you're in it. Like the amount of emotional labor, and now Keisha, I know you're not like a mom, but like, you
Right,
know,
but
the invisible labor,
I
you
can
care for your
understand.
mom,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, I
the
care for my
invisible
mom.
labor of,
Right. Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
that's, I don't want to say it's like being a mom, but it's like being a mom, right? Like where
Right.
do you have to be? Where, at what time? What do you need groceries wise? Like what do you like? Who
Exactly.
needs to be where? Like what? Like the putting it on the calendar. Like all of the things that come with motherhood. It's like some women, and again, it's like a badge of honor that I can do all of these things, but it's also burning you out. And so how do you find the balance? How do you find the balance? And that's not even with trauma, right? Like that's not even like, that's just motherhood period is hard. But then you add trauma into it. And then it's like, now we're talking it's a whole different ballgame once you add trauma.
Well, that's actually, a setup for the next question. So, how does, unhealed trauma, how does that impact parenting styles, and, from and generational, patterns?
So this is an interesting, it's interesting to work with mothers because there's something about when you have a child that somehow you revisit your own childhood, right? Because all of a sudden you start parenting this child and you might think like, I had a normal child. It was fine. It was like, it wasn't great. It was good. Like, like you might have like known something was off, but it's like not that serious, right? Now, whether hormones or like they're just kids' emotions or their personalities, that like kids trigger something within us, right? And so the trigger could be, oh my God, I can't believe that like my kid is 2 years old and I would never let them roam the street, but I was 2 years old. And my mom had me out in the street like all the time till 10 o'clock at night. Like you start to revisit your own experience and you're like, wait a minute, that actually was not normal. And I feel some type of way about that. Or your kid reminds you of someone of another parent, another relative that all of a sudden is triggering something in you. And you're like, I'm reacting to my child that doesn't make sense. And then it's like, and now you're starting to like ask yourself questions, right? And then you're starting to recognize a level of trauma that was unhealed that you didn't really know.
Right, it was there, lay kind of dormant, I'm guessing.
It lay dormant.
That brings that up for you,
right? Or you knew your childhood was dysfunctional, and you still allowed the toxicity to happen, right? Until you had children, and now all of a sudden you want to protect or insulate your children from the toxicity. And then you have to deal with like, oh, you think you're better than us now? Or why don't you let me watch your children? And you're like, no effing way, man. Like, like never. Oh, like, oh, you're too good for me now. Like you can't like, and then there's these dynamics that play out. Right. Because you're like, I want to protect my children from toxicity. And it was cool when I was single and it was cool when I was married. But now that I have these kids, I have to try to set boundaries.
Exactly.
And that comes with a whole host of issues, holidays and dang, and what do you tell the kid, and what do you tell and all of these things. And how do you thread the needle now as a mother of your own unhealed wounds while you're parenting in real time these children and not trying to mess them up? Right. And it's very hard. It's really hard. And really, again, when I worked in Trenton, it was like you had these generational families that were known to DIFAs, to DCP&P, right? And unfortunately, I don't want to call it bad parenting, but like bad habits are normalized, right? And so what you think is normal growing up is really not. And so you're just perpetuating like bad habits and the cycle continues because you're like, well, what's the problem? Like I grew up with this and I turned out fine, but you didn't really. But you're like, we turned out fine. No one went to jail. No one, whatever. Like it's fine. And DCP is saying to you, no, you're not. It's not fine. And you have to do something different to break the cycle. And some people are like, I don't need to break the cycle. There's nothing that's not broken. Because what you're telling me is this is broken and I don't need to fix it or I don't want to fix it. And so like you're either perpetuating intergenerational, again, abuse, neglect, all of the things, or you try to separate yourself and do something different, but old habits die hard.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. So in that context, okay, and you mentioned sometimes, you see things, in your child that may, kind of trigger you. Can you, if it's not too personal to ask, is it something that you can name specifically that you've seen happen that has been something that you have felt that you have had to kind of maybe like, maybe take a look at yourself, or, kind of take a look at your past, and, because, you know, Gen Xers, okay, we went through some stuff, and, we, many of us, we were like the latchkey kids. Our parents were working, and you had the key that that was up underneath the mat outside the door, or
That's right.
you had the key. I remember, my cousin who was living with me at the time. I grew up in Ewing Township, and she came up from Florida, I guess, right around the time she was something like, I want to say like 7, and I was probably maybe something like 9, a couple years apart. And I remember as we got older, I remember my mom, working, and we lived with my mom and my maternal grandparents, and we all lived together. Okay, so my cousin moved in, and she stayed with me for about 6 years. And I remember just, kind of, as we got a little older now at this point, I'm like probably something like 11, okay, and she's something like 9, okay. And I remember, kind of my mom, we, went to school in Ewing, but my mom worked in Trenton. And my, grandmother, and grandfather were, still at work. Okay, grandmom didn't get off until like 4. My mom got off at something like, 3 o'clock. We got home maybe something like around that 2:45, almost 3. So there was like a half an hour window of between like 3 o'clock and 3:30 before my mom would get home.
Sure.
And we
That was
didn't
normal.
yeah, so we didn't necessarily like, I had gone to the babysitter, but as I got older, now I'm like 11, okay, and then 12, and then Tasha's like, at the time, she's like 10 and I'm 12, okay. So it's like, okay, all right, you can go home, and you can let yourself in, you're
Yep.
old enough.
Yep.
And literally I can remember, coming home. Actually, I many times, I think I got home before my cousin did. And I remember kind of coming in, and then she had a key, and it was like, around the neck, and to a certain extent it made us, also a little bit more responsible, because
Correct.
if you made a mistake and you left that key at home, then you know what, you're kind of like, you're out.
That's right. The consequences.
Yeah,
that's right. You would wait.
Kind of, SOL.
Yeah, that's right.
So making sure that I always, had that key, and remembering to check that and make sure I had that before I left home.
That's right.
Every single morning.
That's right.
So but I can remember coming home, and at the time, the cartoon that was on at the time was He-Man.
That's right. That's right. He-Man, and what was the other one? Thundercats.
Yes.
And then it would be like My Little Pony. It was like that whole 233.
Yeah.
Like like it was that window of like
yes,
sure was. And then
and that's how you would judge in terms of really kind of
correct,
like what time it was, okay,
depending on what cartoon was on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then there was the Brady Bunch and all that.
That's right.
And I just remember that, but I remember kind of coming home, and coming in, immediately, starting to watch the cartoons.
That's right. Get your own snack. Right.
Yeah, my mom was home, so and those were things and ways that we grew up. Latchkey, we did kind of like the beginning of the latchkey, I think.
Correct.
Kids, Gen X, things are a lot different now. I mean, I think kids come home even now. They think they probably come home and have all the gadgets and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
That's right. Or you have to stay at aftercare. There's no
right.
There's no like letting yourself in.
There was no
letting yourself in.
There was no aftercare, at 6 o'clock during that.
That's right.
That was the whole reason why we had the keys and were latchkey kids to begin with, because there was no where you can go with an aftercare and mom can come pick you up at 5 o'clock.
That wasn't a thing. And if you didn't have the resources, and if they did exist, and you didn't have the money to pay for the aftercare, I mean, it's like, what were you gonna do? Like that. That was a thing. And for me, it's like, I appreciate that experience because it did make us responsible, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think that there's something to that ability to say, like, I need you to be self-sufficient, and like,
Yeah.
I cannot coddle you, and like, I'm going to need you to be responsible. Like,
Yeah.
there is something to that. Where
Absolutely.
I have found would be the problem is that, like, you'd go to, like, you'd have to go to the neighbor's house who was like a notorious pedophile or whatever the thing
Oh,
was,
yeah.
or you know what I mean, or like was not a good person or was doing drugs or whatever the
Right,
thing is,
right,
and
right.
the parent knew that the person was not like the best person,
Right.
and you still let that person watch your kid, right? Like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's where it got dicey.
Yeah.
Because it's like, on the one hand, I understand that you have to work and that it's late and that like your resources were limited, but you willingly then chose to
Bring
put
your
some of
kid.
these kids in these situations, like, with not the best people, or you didn't know that like the guy was down the street
Sketchy.
was
Yeah.
but then when the kid told you, and again, this is where like the level of trauma is, like, the
Mm-hmm.
kid tells you such and such neighbor down the street touched me or whatever, or like tried to get lure me or whatever the thing is, or he showed me an inappropriate movie, or he tried to kiss me or whatever the thing is. And the mom would be, or now I don't say the mom, but like the parents would be like, well, what do you want me to do about it? You still got to go over there every day.
Yeah, because there's nobody else to watch you.
There's nobody else to watch you.
And I'm at work. And
So
I'm
you got
trying
to
to put
stay.
food
You
on
got.
the
I don't know
table.
what
So
to tell
what
you.
are you going to do? Right.
What are you
All
going
right.
to do? And like, that's the stuff that a person can experience, that they're like, well, I know it's a little bit off, but like, okay. And then when they have their kids and they're like, oh my God, like, I told you, like, now they look back on it and
Right.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, you knew this person
Yeah.
was like not, and you just put me in harm's way. Like,
Yeah.
that's what messes people up, is because
Yeah.
now they have their own kids and they're like, oh my God, like,
Right.
you willingly put me in harm's way. And how do I make that square circle? How do I what do I do with that now?
Yeah.
What do I do with that now? Because I
Yeah.
now have awareness. I would never put my kid in
that
harm's way. And
situation.
you did.
Right. Right.
Because
Willingly. Yeah.
and again, it's very complicated, because you're like, you want to be angry at that mom, like, how dare, or dad, how dare you? Oh, but also understanding that their resources were limited, so they were, like, they were in a tight bind, or they themselves had experienced it with themselves, and they're like, well, like, it happened to me, and it's fine. So, like, what's the big deal? And
Yeah.
that's where that intergenerational trauma happens,
And it's cycled, and
and it
happens.
cycles.
Then it appears all over again. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say, and listen, and again, I've done enough of the research in terms of like gene expression and DNA, and if you've, I don't know if you've heard the studies of like, the Holocaust survivors, you can see in the DNA of their great grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
like the trauma of the Holocaust
Mm-hmm.
on the gene expression of great grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. Now, you take Black people who, like, we go back to slavery days.
Yep.
Right. And our experience with being like, taken from our land, taken from our
Yeah.
home, being slaves, the sort of like oppression, all of these
Yeah.
things. You don't think that gene expression is handed down
Exactly.
now, like, and again, without conscious awareness, right? But
Right,
it's just
right,
like that
right.
gene expression of like being violated and no boundaries and like not having a say or not having agency, and not, like, you don't think that that's in our DNA?
Right. And many times I think that's why you have, and I find that it's either one way or the other. Either, we are at a point where we're gonna, it's kind of like, yeah, no, I'm a fight for my rights. So then you get, you get people who are then, potentially maybe a little bit more aggressive, okay, because it's like, yeah, no, that has kind of traveled down, and I am going to let you know, like, I'm not the one, and I'm a clap back because I have to, because you're taking advantage, and and you took advantage, many years, and this is just not going to happen here, or it may go the other way, where now you are seeking, people pleasing measures, and you're completely, kind of like conditioned to, kind of doing things,
like
for
to like
applause.
fit in and
Yeah,
like
for
play
applause.
nice
Yeah,
and
we're
yeah.
gonna do things to
Yep.
applause. Just keeping the peace.
That's right. That's right.
Making sure that you're towing the line. You're not too loud. You're not. Start to minimizing. Your own
Correct.
yourself. And your feelings.
Correct.
Swallowing those feelings. So I find that it can kind of go either way. And this is not to say
7%.
this is not to say that it doesn't happen to other people outside of people of color, because I
Of
do know
course.
it does, but I am saying in a sense that we do have to kind of take a look at that, and honor that and be respectful of that, and see that, kind of where it comes from. Okay.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
our experiences, we're different, and it's just truth be told, we do have that, we do have that, kind of, there in the background. And unfortunately, I mean,
Always.
over for hundreds of years. So, something that has gone on from hundreds of years, is almost, to this embedded, so it's
That's
not
right.
going to go away in 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 generations.
Sure.
It's still there,
But to me, I'm like, but it won't change until you recognize for
exactly
yourself that like you are part of that chain, and
right.
you have to make the decision to like break away from that, right?
Break it,
Unfortunately, it's like, yeah, it's just like we're just going to continue and perpetuate and all of these things, but like again, you have to do the inner work. It's an individual. You know what I mean? Like you have to decide for yourself. Like not forget, but like forget all of the societal restraints. It's just like recognizing for yourself, like what is working for me
exactly,
and what is not working for me, and how do I choose to make choices for me to live my best life. And that organically will start to spread out, because it's like, I'm going to raise my children to be different. I'm going to raise my children to like want to always be looking at themselves and like their place in the world. And again, understanding that they're a gift of the universe or God or whatever. And it's like, well, how do you express whatever talent, whatever gifts were given to you, so that you can live your best life and make your contribution to society, right? Like, because outside of, Black, white norms, rich, poor, like, it's like, you're here for a reason. Like, and again, that's woo-woo speaking, right? It's like, you're here for a reason. And so like, let's stop like necessarily towing the line and really focusing on how do I show up as my best, healthiest version of myself with all of my, with all of my challenges and upbringing and difficulty. Like how do I develop resilience? How do I develop like whatever gifts were given to me so that I can be my best self? Because, like we're not going to get out of here unscathed, right? But it's just like, right? Like we're all going to get burned. And so how do you get out of here trying to live your best life and serving your highest purpose, your soul's purpose?
Absolutely. So in real life, and we're talking about, healing. So realistically, and from your perspective, I know everybody is different, but what does that look like? Like what is that version of healed? What does that look like? And I mean, and I'm not talking about, kind of like the glossed over, Instagram versions where, it's like, oh, and it like all of a sudden we're just, we're just
kumbaya and all that.
Right. It's like, okay, therapy is hard.
Yes, it is.
And, it's sometimes it can be almost like a blood sport,
Correct.
But by the time when you go through it and you peel back those layers, and sometimes things can get messy, and it's interesting because, many times you have people who kind of put like faith over here and mental health in terms of psychology or clinically over here. And a lot of times I find that, they're kind of saying the same things, just using different terminologies.
Correct.
So, when you're talking about, when I'm talking about like that blood sport and things getting messy, okay, from a faith perspective, that's okay. Breaking those covenants, okay, realizing that somehow you've come into in agreement with the spirit of fear, okay, you've come into agreement, okay, with a spirit of a perversion, okay, for example, like if like lust or something like that, or you've come into a spirit of infirmity in terms of pain and inequity and all that stuff. So whatever the case may be, knowing that from a faith perspective, okay, seeing that and now going in and kind of breaking those covenants, because when you agree or you're in certain things, and unfortunately you don't know about it, but when you're in relationships or in places where
Correct.
you have been touched, or things like that, that kind of that forms an agreement, a covenant, if you will. Okay,
That's
and we're
right.
talking in terms of like a spiritual realm. It depends on what everybody believes.
For
Okay,
sure.
but
For
I'm
sure.
speaking, for me as a Christian, and how I see things. I'm not saying everybody has to, just
For sure.
putting that out there. So now you don't know that's there. Okay, on the clinical side. Okay, now you're experiencing all this trauma. Okay, from different things. Okay, you have you don't trust anybody. Okay, you have a PTSD. You play things in your mind. Okay, you feel stuck. Okay, you ruminate. Okay,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
because of all these things have happened.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, from a faith perspective, okay, now we got to break those covenants. We got to break that agreement that has been
Yep.
made. Okay.
Yep.
So in here on this side, it's okay. We're going to still break those agreements. It's called therapy. Let's go
Correct.
back and let's address what happened. I'm going to walk with you. Okay.
Correct.
But let's break this. And so that you're able to feel better, then go on to be, the best version of yourself, because we all have an assignment here. I believe that,
Yeah.
we all have an assignment that we're supposed to do and can fulfill here. And
Yep.
many times, and we have these strongholds, okay, that kind of hold us down. Okay. It's hard to be able to move and be able to rise up into our best version of ourselves and to complete
100%.
those assignments or that purpose for your life. So I completely understand, like 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, and from and I think the beauty of where the way that I practice is like, I try to do a little bit of education around like evolution, right? Like if you think about evolution and the way like our brains and our bodies were made is to default always live in fear, right? If you think about caveman days, right? Like we are trained to always be scanning for danger. Right. And like we always are just like, and unfortunately, it's heightened. But in 2026, everything is the tiger around the corner. Like the ding that you get like on you from your email is the tiger, is like the PSG bill, like that's that's the tiger, right? And so your body is always scanning for danger, right?
Yeah.
And if bad things have happened, you have just escalated that level of scanning for danger because bad things have happened, and you have had to learn how to cope in the presence of danger, especially if you were a child and these things happened, right? Like you coped however you coped, and you got out, you're 18, you're 21, and you got out, but like your body and your evolution didn't get the memo that you're now safe.
Right.
And so you're always living in a constant state of like, what is the next danger around the corner? So I can't be in relationships because, are you going to hurt me like that one day? Right. I can't trust the job because, like, are you going to backstab me? Like there's always this level of fear that exists, especially again, if you had been in neglect and abuse situations as a child, your body and the huge book, the Bible that we all use in trauma is The Body Keeps the Score.
Yep.
Is that it's in there, right? It's in your body. Like it has the Rolodex. It's filed away in there, right? And so like it's part of the healing is in, and we call it like, especially with trauma, like grief and trauma need witnesses, right? Again, if you think about caveman days, if you think about, how cavemen, again, and women, like how they navigated the dangers of the world was in community, right? And so like after, either you escaped the tiger or you killed the tiger and you brought it home, there was celebration. Like we all, or God forbid, like you didn't make it back. There was some sort of ritual around, community around, again, like recognizing that we lost one of our own, right? Like there's just a collective witnessing of what is happening with us. And so when I think about it like that, and I'm like, well, part of therapy is to witness your grief. We cannot run away from it. It is here and it needs to be witnessed. And when you witness it, you reduce its power, right? Because it's now being witnessed. It's now being held. It's now being validated. You're not crazy. This is like a real thing. like, and again, trauma is defined, it's a subjective definition.
Mhm.
A car accident that can be traumatizing to one is just, that was a Tuesday night for me. Like that, I just got into a car accident. Like it's so subjective what our definition of trauma is. And I would say that it is, if it's affecting your ability to function day to day, like you're turning into OCD, you're flicking lights, or or you're like having to pop pills, or like that, to me would be like a sign of maybe some trauma, right? Like
Yeah.
you cannot function. Either you cannot function, you can't get out of bed, or you cannot function without some sort of like, I need a drink, or I need
Yeah,
drugs, or
something
I
to
need,
cope. Yeah.
something to cope, right? And the things that allowed you to cope, maybe when you were younger, you're realizing is no longer working, because you're now adding kids, and you're adding a job, and you're adding promotions, and you're adding dying parents, and you're adding like all these things.
Right.
And so part of the healing is in, okay, you're coming into this room, and I'm going to be a witness to all of the things.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, you're not holding it in. And what you're doing, and again, I live in the space of, because your body's pre-verbal, you can't talk to it, right? You have to experience it. And so it is allowing your body to be present, and to say to your body, what do you need in order to feel safe? Because once you establish safety within in your body, once you establish trust within yourself and your body, then we can start to really do some healing. Because as long as your body feels scared, it will not take off the armor. You will not get in here. There's no talking to this, right? You can do all this, and I do talk therapy. You can do all the talk therapy that you want, and we could talk about it, right?
Right.
But if your body feels safe,
Right.
if
At
your
the end of
body
the
feels
day.
safe
Yeah.
to put down the armor, to go in deeper, and to witness the grief or the sadness, the resentment, the anger, all of the ugly feelings, and say, like, your feelings are valid. It's okay for fear to have a seat at the table. It cannot drive the bus, but it can have a seat at the table.
Right.
Resentment can exist. It should not drive the bus. It should not be driving the car, but it should have a seat at the table. And your resentment and your anxiety and your fear and your past and what you've experienced, it's all valid. It's okay. It gets to have a seat at the table. We are not going to shun it. We're not going to shame it. We're not going to wish it to go away. It's here. That fear protected you. Whatever it is you did protected you. But now you have to take the reign back. You have to take control back from the fear, from the, the anger, the resentment, the whatever. And like, your best version has to get behind the wheel. That has to be driving the bus. And it's hidden behind fear and all that, right? But it's in there. And so my job is to, like, you're valid, but I'm going to need you to go over here. Like, fear, got it. I'm not rushing you, but I'm going to shift you over here. And I'm going to go looking for your best version, the highest version of you, your best version, your most successful version of you. Where is she at? Let me talk to her. Let's bring her more to the forefront, and let's put her in the, like, okay, if you had to make choices as your best self, what would you do? If fear was not in control, what would you do? I would say no to that job offer. I would say no to that invitation. I would say no. Okay. And then we take these baby steps of saying, okay, your job is to say no. Your job is, you want to dance to a corny 90s song, but people would laugh at you because it's corny and you happen to like it. Okay. Then your job for the week, that's your homework, is to listen to this corny song, maybe in your ears, but maybe in the radio or in the house, with your kids being like, Mom, you're so corny. And you're just like, I don't care. This is my jam, and you're like, I don't care what society thinks, but my best, healthiest, most whatever version of me is like loving this corny song.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so now your body starts to learn it is safe for us to be here. It is safe for us to exist in the world. And the more you can create safety in your body, and like, and with this feeling of like, we will protect you. You are vulnerable. Got it. Like the world is an ugly place. But we will protect you. But you're welcome here. Well, then all the healing happens. And again, it's a blood sport because fear will not go quietly into that good night. It will not be like, let me just step aside and allow your best version to step through, because it has a job, right? Like anxiety has a job. Depression has a job. Yeah. It's like my job has been to keep you alive. Like I might have made you depressed, but are you still here? Like, are you still living?
Right. And telling
so now you're telling me you want me to go over here? No, I'm not going. No, I'm not going. I'm not going. And the job of therapy is to just be like, oh, fear showed up last week. Fear showed up yesterday. And it's just like, got it. I'm gonna need you to come over here. You're not gone entirely.
Right.
But I still need you. Fear is a good thing.
Right. Yeah.
But you can't be here all day, every day. Like you gotta be over here. Not over like.
Yeah.
It's gotta be like over here. Over here.
So let me ask you, because you mentioned about resentment, before. So at a certain point, as you may be resentful or upset about a certain thing, but what does that look like in terms of forgiveness? Because, and I'm, kind of speaking from a faith perspective, it's, you got to let that go. And pretty much, God loves, it's kind of, he loves you. Okay. But he also loves that other person too. So as bad as what that person did, that's also his son or his daughter too. So it's like, okay. And as hard as, I don't know what, forgiveness is one of the hardest things, but you have to, if you want him to forgive you, then you have to forgive others. Okay.
Right.
So what does that look like from your perspective on your side? Okay. Of getting someone to move past, or at least, to the point of saying, okay, well, I'm not going to be all kumbaya with you about what you did. Okay. Yeah. But I am going to forgive in a sense of understanding that, because forgiveness it's really not for you.
Right.
But it is for me. Okay.
Right.
And it's so that, this, I can get this off my chest. Okay. And I can feel free, and I can go on, and I can then become that best version of me. If I keep sitting in this, and I'm letting, fear and resentfulness, and I'm letting that kind of rule the table and sit here and eat every day with me. That's not going to help me to move forward. But yet it's one of the hardest things to do, especially if you are a person and you dealt with sexual abuse. It's very difficult. How do you forgive that person, especially if that person happened to be your brother?
Correct.
God forbid. Correct. Or your father.
That's right.
How do you kind of let that go?
So
and get honor yourself in the process.
So and it's interesting because so many people have struggled with that concept. And so I say to my clients, I said, let's not call it forgiveness, right? Because like it's very charged. It's a very charged word, right? And I say to them, I said, let's look at it. Let's try to reframe it differently. And I use the word acceptance as a different framework, right? So and I just had this session with a client like a couple of weeks ago where she's just like, you see these people where like you've killed their child, right? And it's like, and then you see them in court and they're like, I forgive you, like the parents were like, the Sandy Hook families, like, I forgive you, Parkland, like, and they're like, I forgive you. And she's like, I could never do that. And I said, I don't look at forgiveness because it does give you this connotation of like, well, you're giving them a pass, right? Like
right. You're letting them,
you're accepting that it was okay about what they did. And I said, when I think about the word forgiveness, and I change the word from forgiveness to acceptance, when you have accepted that your child is no longer going to come through that room, that child will never come home. You accept that this is the person that did it. This is where they are, or not in jail, or whatever the thing is. You have accepted that these things happen to you. You have accepted that your child is no longer going to come through the room. When you accept that your child is no longer going to come through the room, you start to now make decisions that help you move forward, right? Because as long as you're not accepting, you're always, like, not always, but if you're always thinking like, why? Oh, I just want my son back. I just want them to come to. I just want to hug them one more time. I just want to hug them one more. I just want them to love them. I just wanted to see them grow up. I just want to walk them on the aisle. But when you accept that that's never going to happen, you're never going to walk your child down the aisle. And so to live in the grief of you're not going to be able to walk your child down the aisle. You're never going to see them graduate from college or high school. And let's sit with that. It's a very powerful, like, there's pain there.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is like the abuse, the sexual abuse that happened to you, your innocence was taken from you. And so you will never, let's just say, lose your virginity like in the way that you wanted it, on your terms. And let's grieve that was taken. Your boundaries were violated. And I'm sorry. And that things happened that were not of your choice. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were abused. You've lost your child. You're never going to walk your child down the aisle. You're never going to see them graduate high school. Once you get to a level of acceptance, you can grieve that now. And then you can say, okay, knowing that I'm never going to see my child walk, across the high school stage. And again, that period of grief is however long it takes. But now it's this level of, okay, what do I want to do with my day today? I'm not sitting in, I'm never going to see my child walk down. I'm never going to walk my child down. You have accepted and grieved that you're never going to walk your child down the aisle. That your virginity was not given by your choice, right? Like whatever. Like it was just the way that you thought of a loving relationship that
it just didn't happen.
That's not gonna happen, right? But now that you accept it, what do you do differently? How do you get up today and try to like take the next step towards the rest of your life, right? Because you devoted your entire life to this child and they're no longer here. And you now have to do the hard work, because that's the thing too, is forgiveness or acceptance now means you have to move on.
Yeah, yeah.
You now have to, I don't want to say go back to work or whatever, but it's
but it's hard. Yeah.
You have to like, you now have
that
to
looks
do the
like
hard work of living, And sometimes that is harder than staying stuck in the rumination of like, It's a little bit easier to stay, and you get permission, because who's going to tell you to get up and go to work when you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I lost my kid. Like there's a sense in that, right? And you could go the rest of your life in that grief, right? But forgiveness / acceptance now means you have to do the hard work of living. How do you live knowing that you gave birth to this child, that you had expectations, that you were going to walk them through, high school graduation, or you were going to walk them down the aisle.
Yeah.
And whatever vision or plan, it was taken from you.
Right. It's no longer there.
Whatever dreams and hopes and wishes you had for yourself and your child are gone. And you now have to create a new vision. And that's scary. But that's, I don't want to say that, forgiveness. Like is like, okay, I'm accepting that this is my new reality. I'm not happy about it, but I also know that I have to get up now, and I don't know what that looks like, right? But it's personal to every person. But I think it's that level of doing the work with a person to help them shed, let's just say, their old selves, and now step into this new self. That's the work. That's the forgiveness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it's that level of, and it feels very cliche to say like, well, the healing is for you and it's not for them, and the whatever. But it's just like, the ugliness of it is that you have to go on living. And that's hard. Yeah.
Especially in I can't even imagine that. That's horrible.
Right? Like, it's just like, how do you how do you now spend the next, again, depending on how old you are, like the next 40, 50 years with your new normal?
Because it's out of sync. It's out of sync. It's like
It's out of sync.
It's out of sync. Because you would expect, okay, for you to go before. And it's interesting we're having this conversation because I had a guest on not long ago. Actually, he was like my second guest, and he actually he lost his son.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was able to kind of move forward, and something that he did was very, very beautiful. At the advice of his therapist, he actually started a candle company. Okay.
Right.
Which was something that I'm sure gave him purpose, but
Correct.
also gave him a way to remember his son, because I believe the name of the candle company was the name of his son's retail business, I think, that he had. So he just took the name of it. And I think and it was kind of really heartbreaking, because I think prior to his son passing, he had started trying to get investors and taking that, bringing to make his vision come to life. And he had indicated that he had son is passed, but he got a letter or something saying that he was approved. Like, you know what I mean? Like all the stuff that he was putting forth to try to turn around.
That's right.
And to find out, okay, all right, wow, like you got approved for it. You're not, and unfortunately, you're not here to share in that, but you did get approved. So then it almost kind of sets you back all over again. Like,
correct.
Damn,
Correct.
So my heart, kind of went out to him, and and just and the work that he had to do, to be able to kind of move past.
Correct.
And I won't even say I don't even think the word move past is probably even good
enough. But how do you live? How do you get up?
It is acceptance, as you said.
That's right.
It's about accepting that you don't move past it. And
That's
I think this death period, death of a child, I think especially, but of a loved one, mom, brother, sister, whoever, it's not really something that you ever really get past, get over.
Correct.
To learn to live with,
correct.
I.e. accept it.
Correct.
I.e.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And unfortunately, again, I think like as a society, death is one of the things it's the one thing that touches all of us.
Everyone.
We do like a horrible job of like creating space for us to witness grief. It's uncomfortable. It's whatever. Like, let's get over it. Like, just take 2 weeks. Like, it's like, do that over there. Right.
We don't want to.
Yeah. Right. Or like we check in on you for the first month or so, and then but like life. And so like whatever. But again, I think as a society. And again, I studied like the way that, with evolution and all, like the way that we grieved allowed for it to be so much more ritualistic, like a holistic view of like, this is the natural cycle of what it means to be human. Right. And so we honor, like we just have these rituals around like, thank you for the time that you were here, whether it was like you were an elderly or you were young, like the time you were here, you made your contribution and like, we all come together to acknowledge your contribution, like we're just not good about it, as a society, because it's uncomfortable and it's ugly. And again, as a therapist, I feel like I'm always, my clients will say to me like, thank you. And for holding the space. And I'm like, thank you for letting me into some of the most intimate
parts of their lives,
of your life, right? Like, thank you for trusting me with some of the most intimate parts of your life. I do not take that lightly, right? And so as the gatekeeper, and again, it's like funny because like whatever, I've gotten very good at, I don't want to say containment, but I've gotten very good at containment where like I'll leave a session and I'll get home with my kids and it's just like I can put it on the shelf. Like but I have to digest it. I do have to digest it, right? But it's just sort of like the reality is like you're getting hit with a fire hose almost every day.
Right.
And it's just like, how do you create containment around other people's suffering?
Right, because because you're compartmentalizing and kind of keeping it here so that it doesn't spill out.
Correct.
Into your own, life.
Correct.
Family. Yeah.
Correct. And listen, and again, I think for me personally, I've done a lot of work to try to I don't want to say make sense of people's suffering, but it's just sort of like, if I embrace and accept that, we're all suffering, everyone is suffering, right? Like, but my job is to, like, if I can say to you today that you're not alone, right? Like, then I have done my job. Right? Because community, like, is required. Like, again, with grief, trauma needs a witness, and I will gladly sign up for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Right? So that's and I'm and I'm honored. And again, I'm like, sometimes I meditate and I pray and I all the things, and I go on my walks and I'm with nature, and I'm just constantly like what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to help? And I do get downloads. I get downloads from the universe. I get downloads from Mother Nature. I don't know what you want to call it, God or whatever the thing is. And it's just like, it just helps me sort of like, what's with all the suffering? Why? And it's like, you get these downloads and you're just like, okay, got it. And that makes it okay for me, I guess. So, that's what I got. That and corny dance music and all the good things. I'm telling you, man, music and art and walking.
Well, well, you know what, Eddie, I think that's beautiful. And I think that we all could get something out of, corny dance music and walking. I mean, because I'll tell you, I am the first that will geek out over an 80s song in a minute. And I would get the stares, the looks from friends. I mean, a couple of them that come to mind is, John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Jack and Diane.
Jack and Diane.
And everybody knows.
That's right. In Heartland.
I know, right. And their eyes go, oh my God.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Don't hate on John Cougar. Don't hate.
And I'll go there. I'll
sync.
And some damn Pat Benatar in a
minute.
That's
right.
I'm so dating myself. I will say.
Look, I'm with you. I am with you.
Do it. I am with you, Abba. I will do it, and I will dance. And it reminds me, like, I may not be, Elaine from Frasier with the dance.
That's right. That's right. But Seinfeld, I'm like, ooh.
But I'm close.
I'm close. I'm like, I ain't got no rhythm. None.
I'm close. The fact that I even played it to begin with,
Correct.
I'm close.
Correct.
Like, close,
right? And then I have the nerve to be like, everybody's on the 2 and the 4, and I'm like, no, it's the 1 and the 3, and they're like, Eddie, it's the 2 and the 4, and I'm like, are you sure? Because I really think it's the 1 and the 3, and they're like, stop it. But I mean, I'm dancing in time, So be it.
Eddie, I have so much more action I want to talk to you, but we are a little bit after 7, so I'm going to keep to that the hour, okay? But I do hope that you will come back. I mean, you're one of the resident therapist, so I want to come back and just kind of expand on this. There are some other topics that we didn't get a chance to get into.
Yes,
I really would like to. So I want to welcome you back. Not just as our resident therapist.
Yeah, I would love, of course,
again, because this was fun. And very very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me, an opportunity.
Absolutely. So we're going to get ready to say goodbye for now, but I want to thank, everybody out there. If you didn't join us here, it'll be uploaded tomorrow on, I believe it's going to be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on Facebook as well. And there'll be some clips and things probably like on Instagram and TikTok and all that. So we will see you guys back next Sunday, next Monday at 6. Next Monday, we are going to have Tiffany Walker on. She is a recruiter, has been for almost 30 years. And she is recruiting a lot of spaces. Yes. And, this is so good. It's like so on point for what we're doing now and where we are now. It's in the name of the series of the episode is called a gut feel, to algorithm. recruitment with AI then and now, in terms
That's
of
going to be
before
fascinating.
AI and now with it. Okay. And, some tips and, if you are looking, okay, how are you able to kind of be seen? Because it's not about many times in this day and age. I mean, and I'll just tell you right now, and my background, for those of you who don't know, I am a faith-based relationship and life coach, but it wasn't long ago where I recruited. I was a recruiter in another life for about 25 years, and I can tell you that the space that we are in now is completely different. A long time ago, we used to actually have those beginning phone screens with people. Now those are
AI.
no.
Yep.
AI does it, seriously. Now, maybe some of the executive roles, you still have a person who is actually called, but some of your, kind of, I would say probably like mid-level, roles or entry level roles. Okay. The ones that, you get like maybe, 200-300 resumes that people apply. No, the recruiters are not actually on the phone with them like they used to be. They do have AI assistant Joy, who will ask you the questions, and then so it really is based on, does your resume hit with those algorithms?
Yeah,
How does it
the
hit?
algorithm.
There's no more,
The
no more of
keywords.
kind of like keywords, exactly. And so it's like, okay, it's not just a matter of, can you do the job, but are you seen? So Tiffany is going to talk to us about it. We're going to talk about AI, talk to how AI is a help, also how it might be kind of dumbing down, because now at this point you don't even have to write your resume.
AI will do it. It's
AI
kind of off a little bit.
Yeah, you have AI software which will tell you, if you upload your resume, it'll just tell you, okay, do you want me to tailor? And literally within seconds, your resume is tailored. It's like, oh my goodness, what?
Wow.
So
wow.
it's definitely a topic that I'm looking forward to delving into and having her on the show next week. So join us, and hit like, subscribe, share. And we will see you next week. Come with your comments. I'll be here. I'll be able to field your comments and kind of talk to you about whatever you want to talk about. And it's going to be good. So have a good night, all. And
have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. All
have a
right,
good one.
Here we go.
Well, that's today's Pull Up and Pour. Thanks for pulling up, showing up, and sharing space with us. If something resonated, don't hold it in. Share this episode, start the conversation, and come back next time with whatever's in your heart and in your glass, because this is where we say it, sip it, and share it. And there's always room at the table. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and don't be a stranger.